I'm Andrew Murata, host of the Education, Leadership, and Beyond podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you are listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Coming up on episode 174 of the House of EdTech podcast, I'm going to talk a little bit more about Clubhouse because I love this app. I've got 4 recommendations for you, a House of EdTech VIP, and we're going to do some real talk about the 4 C's. How are you actually leveraging creativity, communication, collaboration, and critical thinking in your classroom? Strike up the band. Welcome to the House of EdTech podcast. I am your host, Chris Nesi. The House of EdTech explores how technology is changing the way teachers teach and the impact that technology is having in education. I discuss technology that is changing our classrooms and schools, and I share tools and tips that you can hear today and use tomorrow. You're going to hear the stories of teachers, leaders, and creators just like you. The purpose? Whether you use it or not, technology is changing the way you teach and how your students learn. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another episode of the House of EdTech podcast. Very excited that you're here, and I'm very thankful that you make this podcast a part of your anytime, anywhere professional development. My name is Chris Nesi, and we have a lot to talk about today. I've got 4 recommendations that I want to share with you. A couple of things I want to share first. It is just about March 1st as I'm releasing this episode. It is Sunday, February 28th, 2021, and on March 1st, my newest podcast goes live. Well, it's been live since January, but I'm doing a new podcast with my son, my older son, and yes, this is the one who has previously been on the show, and he had previously hosted the Vacuum podcast, but he's back, and I get to be his sidekick. We are launching a podcast called Knock Knock, Who's There?, which you can find at knockknockpod.com, and this is super family friendly. It is super family friendly. It is classroom friendly, and it's me and my son telling jokes. He's doing the research. We're finding funny things to share, whether it's knock-knock jokes or other funny stories, as the title of the show is called. And this is going to be fun because it gets me and him. I mean, we do a lot of stuff together, but this is where I can kind of bring him into my world of podcasting and content creation. And it kind of ties into what we're going to be talking about in this episode as we talk about the 4 C's. But I would love it if you or your children or you and your students would check this podcast out. It's going to launch again on March 1st, and we're going to be releasing 3 episodes per week. So you will get new episodes of Knock Knock Who's There on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And we are really, really excited because we've had a lot of fun recording episodes so far, and we're looking forward to having more fun, and hijinks will ensue, I'm sure. So if you want to check that out, go to knockknockpod.com, or you can search for Knock Knock Who's There in your podcast catcher of choice. But the best thing you can do is go to the website and get the subscription options right there, because there are a couple of podcasts that would come up with that name. It should be pretty clear which is the cover art, but if you go to our website, it will be very clear which version of Knock Knock Who's There you're subscribing to. And on behalf of my son and myself, thank you in advance if you check it out. Next up, again, some news and notes here as we start this episode. I wrote a book. That's right. I wrote a book. Well, I've created something that looks like a book, and I'm really proud of it. And let me explain what this is. I have created what I am calling the Pod Journal. We're familiar with gratitude journals and journaling and just writing stuff down, diaries, things like that. So in thinking about what I could do here in 2021 to further push and encourage people to create content and podcast and all the things that I think people should be doing, and along the lines of things I have spoken about many times on previous episodes of this very show, and also Podcast PD. And if you've ever heard me speak as a guest on other people's podcasts, I am always talking about podcasting. So I created the Pod Journal to help people, maybe you, better organize and plan episodes of your podcast. The Pod Journal can be found on Amazon. I created this, and I'll probably put together an episode where I go into more detail about how I put this together. But the short version is I designed what I wanted pages of this journal to look like and created them in Microsoft Office, and ultimately published a PDF file, designed the cover art, and I'm leveraging Kindle Direct Publishing through Amazon to list and be able to sell this on-demand physical book. It's approximately the size of a comic book. It's actually a little bit bigger than a standard size comic book, and it's 112 pages, and it will take somebody through their first 100 episodes. In addition to the pages where you can plan and take notes and organize your thoughts for an episode of a podcast, I've also included pages to inspire you and encourage you to reflect along the way and brainstorm ideas. And I'm really excited because I think that, yes, I can go on Twitter or I can do episodes of the podcast, but sometimes you like to hold something physically in your hand that will help you organize your thoughts or really push you in the right direction. You can find the Pod Journal at thepodjournal.com. That's right. I bought a website domain. It's super easy. I use Hover to do that. But if you go to thepodjournal.com, you can pick up a copy of this for either yourself, if you are going to be podcasting, or if you're currently podcasting, or if you know somebody who is podcasting, or maybe you want to get it for a student and encourage them to use something like this in class. Or if you teach podcasting, maybe you want to order a bunch of these, and this could be a resource for your students to use. It would be really cool. So check out thepodjournal.com, and I would love your feedback. And, it's also a great way to support the podcast because I'm selling this, the little bit of profits that I get from the on-demand printing certainly help to make things go here at this podcast. And I'd be honored, and I would love your feedback on it as well. So it's not a traditional book. I am going to stick to my guns on that in terms of never writing an actual book. So this is just something that comes in physical book form, and I'm really excited about it. It was an exercise in creativity and some new technology and, getting it to work. And, I'm really excited. So, even if you don't want to buy it, if you just go and check it out, and I would appreciate that. And if you do buy it, of course, please leave a positive review on Amazon, because I guess that's important when you try to sell books on Amazon. So there you go. Check out thepodjournal.com. Now, a little bit more on Clubhouse as we go into this episode's EdTech Thought. All right, let's keep talking about Clubhouse. If you didn't listen to episode 173, you need to go back because it was a great episode. I've been loving the Clubhouse app, and that episode was packed with not only my thoughts on Clubhouse, but the thoughts of other people also about the app. And I had that great conversation with Lisa Dabbs, who I'll be mentioning again in just a couple of minutes within this very segment. But I wanted to let you know what I'm going to be doing regularly on Clubhouse. And if you're an Android user or you are not yet on Clubhouse, I'm sorry. If you're on Apple, please get on there. Find somebody to give you an invitation. After the last episode, I've given probably 7 or 8 people who reached out to me for a Clubhouse invite. I have more invites. I still have invites. So just reach out to me. feedback@chrisnessy.com or direct message me on Twitter. And if I have an invitation, I would be happy to get you onto Clubhouse. But what am I going to be doing on a regular basis? So with PodcastPD, another podcast that I host, podcastpd.com, with Stacey Lindes and AJ Bianco, we're going to be doing Clubhouse rooms on Mondays and Fridays from 7 to 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Mondays, the theme is, Stacey came up with the name, we're calling it The Drive-In. So that's where we're going to talk about goals for the week. And we encourage you, like you're listening to the radio, to call in and participate and speak on the stage in Clubhouse and get yourself going for the week. It's a quick half hour while Stacey is driving to school, and AJ and I are along for the ride, so to speak. On Fridays, we're going to be doing something called the Weekend Week in Review. It's a feel-good Friday kind of thing where we can reflect on the week. What was our high? What was our low? Just kind of decompress after the week. And both of those, again, Monday and Friday morning, 7 to 7:30 a.m. Eastern. If you're awake at that time, please, and you're on Clubhouse, come on over. Make sure you're following us. Again, my username on Clubhouse is at Mr. Nessie on Clubhouse. And, again, come along for this. It's a fantastic way to do this. But that's what I'm doing with PodcastPD. Currently, as I'm recording this at the end of February 2021, I am also, for House of EdTech, I am running on Tuesday nights from 10 to 11 p.m. Eastern. I am running Clubhouse of EdTech. See what I did there? So that's an opportunity similar to, and what I've done the last 2 weeks in that room, I've themed that Clubhouse room on, let's talk about the 4 C's. What are we doing in our classrooms and schools to inspire creativity, collaboration, communication, and critical thinking, either for ourselves or for our students? And I've had some great conversations the last 2 weeks on Tuesday nights, and I'm going to keep it going because it's important to leverage this platform for speaking. If you're on Clubhouse and you're going into these quiet rooms, what are you doing? That's lame. I'm just going to be honest. They are lame rooms. I tried one once. I admit it, but they're a waste of time. You're clearly just going in there to get people to follow you. And sorry, the platform was built to speak. So the rooms I do, we're going to speak, and I'm going to encourage and want you to speak with me and participate. So don't expect to see ever again a quiet room from me, or to ever find me in one of these quiet rooms trying to pick up followers, because you could say you're reading bios and encourage people to read bios. You're just sitting there hoping people click on your name and click follow. So let's follow rooms. It's definitely not about how many people follow you. So let's use the platform the way it's intended. That's a little EdTech Thought inside of the EdTech Thought. Well, that's very Inception. I have to be careful with this. I might hurt myself. Thursdays, as I record this, it's releasing on February 28th, starting on Thursday, March 4th, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. On Thursdays, I'm going to be teaming up with Lisa Dabbs, Bonnie Nieves, Rachelle Dene Poth, Tisha Poncio, Stacey Lindes, and AJ Bianco, and we are going to be running on Clubhouse, EdCamp Clubhouse. That's right. We're going to do it. We're going to dive in and we're going to see what happens as we try to bring the EdCamp mindset to the Clubhouse platform. And the first time we're going to do it is Thursday, March 4th, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And we're going to see what happens. Why not? That's what this is all about. So that's what's going on with me on Clubhouse. I hope to hear you there. And when you do get on there, go punch me in the face, because that's how you follow people. They say tap people on the face to get to their profile and hit follow. I think it's more fun to say punch me in the face. So go punch me in the face on Clubhouse, and let's continue to learn and grow and do this together. And that's my EdTech Thought. All right, get ready to hit rewind, or get a notebook or a pen or a pencil, whatever you need to do, because I'm about to drop 4 awesome recommendations on you. So let's not waste any time. Number 1, I want to recommend WordCounter.net. What is WordCounter? Apart from counting words and characters, the online editor will help you improve word choice and writing style, and optionally, it will help you detect grammar mistakes and plagiarism. Knowing the word count of a text can be important. For example, if an author has to write a minimum or maximum amount of words for an article, essay, report, story, book, paper, you name it, WordCounter will help you simply make sure the word count reaches a specific requirement or stays within a certain limit. In addition, WordCounter can show you the top 10 keywords and keyword density of what you are writing or what you've put onto the site. This allows you to know which keywords you use often and at what percentages. This can prevent you from using or overusing certain words or word combinations and check for the best distribution of keywords in your writing. So this is not just a great tool for you as an adult writer, but might be a valuable tool that you can share with students. And I would encourage you to do it as well. In the details overview, when you're using some text that you've put in here, you can see the average speaking and reading time of your text. While reading level is an indicator of the education level a person would need in order to understand the words you're using. So that's something I found was really interesting. When you put text in, it'll also tell you how long would it take somebody to read this or to speak it out loud. So that's my first recommendation, WordCounter.net. Number 2, TextGiraffe.com. That's TextGiraffe.com. What does this do? And again, I picked this up on TikTok, and I don't remember the username of the person. I just remember the tool because I put it here in my my show notes. But this is a quote unquote a free logo maker. You can put in any word or text, couple of words, and it will spit out really cool looking, almost think word art, where it'll do something to the text, the font, the colors, the shadow, the stroke, the bevel, the embossing. And what you can do with this, you can very simply copy the image and you can paste it into any Google program. So Google Slides, Google Docs, Google Sheets, and you can really enhance your text without having to integrate more fonts, which is weird because the next tool I want to talk about is all about fonts. But you should check out TextGiraffe.com. It'll customize your text. You can use the logo designer for anything you want, and there are a wide variety of options to choose from when you put in that text that you want to put in. So it's great for title slides or maybe putting little logos in your documents and things like that. But speaking of logos and speaking of fonts, this is a really cool site called WordMark.It. So WordMark.It, WordMark.It. And what this does, you need to install a Chrome extension, and at least on a Windows machine, and I'm sure it works on Mac, and it's not so important on a Google Chromebook, but let me explain. What this does, it allows you to type in any word or words. I wouldn't go crazy, like maybe a word or a phrase, and it will show you that word or phrase in all the fonts on your computer. Now, for it to read and understand all the fonts on your device, again, whether you're a Windows computer or a Mac computer, you need to install the Chrome extension so it can do that. Otherwise, it'll show you what the standard fonts are that are probably on your computer. And it'll also show you, you can click and use the Google fonts, and it will show you whatever word or phrase. And this can help you if you're trying to design something or choose a font. I know in Photoshop, I can see a font preview, but those previews are in the name of the font. I've been using this tool like crazy since I discovered it in the last couple weeks, because now I can type in, again, I was doing artwork for EdCamp Clubhouse. So I typed in EdCamp, and then I could scroll and see all the fonts on my computer on this webpage in the word EdCamp. So I could see the phrasing, and I can choose, do I want to see it in all lowercase letters, mixed letters, all caps? And it's just really cool. And then in Photoshop, I can just type in the name of the font that I want, and it's that simple. So if you are a font nerd like me, and I actually think that's the first time I have identified on this podcast as a font nerd, but I like fonts, I like text, I like graphic design, maybe WordMark.It would be valuable to you. Or if you're the teacher who teaches graphic design, or you're using Photoshop or any type of class like that, recommend this to your students as well, WordMark.It. And the last one, and this has nothing to do with typing or, well, you know what? It kind of does. This one is called TalkingPoints. Okay. You can find it at TalkingPTS.org. And this is a new one for me that I'm excited to get going in my classroom as soon as I can. This allows you to reach all of your students' families via text message. Now you might be thinking, Chris, duh, just use Remind. Here's where this takes it to the next level. TalkingPoints lets you communicate with families in their home language. That's right. I can type up in English what I want to send out, and the families of my students will get that message translated in whatever language they choose. So I work with a lot of Hispanic and Latino students. So Spanish is a popular language amongst the families and the parents that I work with. So this will help me better communicate with my parents and families. What else does it do? If they reply to one of my messages, as I understand it, they will text back in Spanish, but I will get the message in English. This is super freaking cool. You can use TalkingPoints. You would be joining millions of teachers and parents who are already using this. And I haven't even yet told you that it's free. That's right. TalkingPoints is a nonprofit organization solely focused on family engagement for families of under-resourced and multilingual communities. They are constantly improving the highest quality of translation. They are constantly working on seamless multilingual communication, and they are offering the essential accessibility during remote learning. There is a web browser version and a mobile app that is always free for you as a teacher, and it's available in 100 languages and counting. So you can text in English, and if you deal with families who are Spanish or Arabic, Vietnamese, Chinese, Somali, French, Portuguese, Burmese, Swahili, Nepali, Russian, I feel like the Animaniac. I feel like Wacko Warner. And they're adding more languages constantly. This is just a couple of languages. So whatever language you are teaching, not teaching, but that maybe the families of your students are, they're going to have that language. And if they don't have it, they will probably have it soon. So check out TalkingPoints, and that's at talkingpts.org. I hope you had your pencil. If not, rewind it and then get your pencil. If you're in the car, well, don't delete the episode. Thanks for listening to this episode's recommendations, and hopefully you got something in there that you will find valuable either for you or for your students. And don't forget to let me know on social media if you do. Tag me at Mr. Nessie, and also use the hashtag House of EdTech. And that's this episode's recommendations. I've talked a lot in the past and already in this episode about the 4 C's: creativity, communication, collaboration, and critical thinking. We need to do better. We need to do more to instill in our students these 4 things. Number 1, we must foster creativity. Educators, teachers, administrators, I don't care what level you operate at. We need to leverage tools to encourage our students to think outside the box on issues they care about. Students need to be given the opportunity every day to pursue their passions and their interests, and to figure out what those things are. They need to be given the space to come up with creative solutions to topics that interest them. Students should be using virtual platforms, and we know that they are right now as I'm recording this during this time in history. They need to be able to use virtual platforms to talk with experts about their ideas. We need to help students connect with real people doing real things. Experts and gurus are out there. Just reach out. Play the teacher card. I've had numerous opportunities myself here in the 2020-2021 school year to speak with teachers and students all around the country about podcasts and podcasting. I've never said no to anyone who reaches out. hint, hint, wink, wink, if you're doing anything with podcasting and you'd like me to talk to you or your class, just reach out. I'll make it happen. Creativity, as we put the train back on the tracks, is something that gets pushed aside way too easy in education. Why? We don't test for creativity. And apparently, if you don't test for something, it's not valuable. I call bunk. I wrote something else in my notes. I look at my own sons. I have my third grader and I have my kindergartner. I can already see the signs of fading creativity in my third grader because of what school focuses on for him as a third grader. I remember, and this breaks my heart, I remember when he was in first grade, his teacher talking to me on back to school night. And no offense to his teacher, but this teacher was almost proud and excited that, and again, she's telling me this on back to school night, that the second half of first grade is where they would go heavier on academics and less on the play and the fun and, what kindergarten was. I was very upset when I heard that. My kindergartner is very imaginative. And it's still something that he shares with his older brother. But I do see the cracks where my older son, he's less creative than he was when he was in second grade or in first grade or kindergarten. I got to work hard to keep him creative. Hence, knock, knock, who's there? We can relax and be goofy and use our imaginations and, find jokes to tell and funny stories to share. My wife and I will always encourage creativity. I try to lead that myself. This podcast in and of itself is a creative expression. Did you like hearing the intro to the last episode? I was super excited as I was planning the last episode, to come up with using the voice of the mouse at the beginning of the episode. Now, if you don't have young children, you may have recognized the voice but not understood the reference. But hopefully you enjoyed that. I was really excited. When it comes to creativity, I also have to fight a lack of creativity in the high school and at the college level. Students at all levels, and it's a slow breakdown for these kids. They've been conditioned before they even get to me to simply look to be told what to know, told what to do, what are the steps, what do I need to do to get a good grade, and they just want to play the game of school. The problem is when they get to me, I offer them opportunities to be creative. I don't provide a clear set of instructions, not in a negative way, but the thing is, I seldom see genuine creativity. I've had a few students at the high school and college level who are genuine creative spirits. Now, I do believe to the letter that everybody is creative to some degree, but I also think that creativity is like a muscle. And in order to improve our creativity, we need to get reps. We need to have opportunities to express our creativity. And that means be bored, let your mind wander, draw, do things, take breaks, do things you wouldn't normally do. There's a lot of ways that we can exercise our creativity. We just need to give those opportunities to students. I encourage you to provide more creative opportunities. The more chances our students get, the better they will get at being creative. I am scared for what innovation is going to look like in the future. Or it's going to be scary. It's going to be sad and scary. We'll go with that. When students who were never given the opportunity to be creative look back on their education and think, boy, did my teacher fail me by not giving me opportunities. It wasn't until I got out of high school or got out of college where I could have more control over my learning and my growth. And at that point, they don't think of it as learning. They just think they can do what they want to do when they want to do it. So we need to give them those opportunities. Remember, they're not going to remember specifically what you taught them. Somebody said somewhere, they're going to remember how you made them feel. So make them feel like they can be creative and provide them with that opportunity. Number 2, communication is key. as again, we're talking about the 4 C's. Communication is the key to ensuring students are able to get the resources they need to make the most of their time, not only in school, but in life. How are you instilling in your students the ability to communicate effectively and share ideas? I try to do it through modeling. I don't hold back. Positive or critical, the communication that I have with students is as genuine and as honest and as transparent as I can possibly be in any given moment. Students need to see and experience different types of communication. How many emails do you get now where students or even adults put the entire message in the subject line of an email? Who's teaching these kids how to send email? My hand is raised. I'm trying. They should be able to express their thinking in a variety of ways, whether it's through video, through audio, through writing, through drawing. That's one of the things that I kind of harp on in social studies is how are we communicating our ideas and continuing to tell and contribute to the human narrative? We got to provide opportunity. We've got to show kids that they can express themselves. We have to encourage students to express themselves and to be able to communicate effectively with others. Number 3, we need to foster success through collaboration. K through 12 education is being driven by the idea of fostering a collaborative culture to encourage students to work together to solve problems. Modern classroom designs must incorporate new elements. One example, flexible seating. Your kids are not going to be able to collaborate if they're sitting in rows getting ready to work in that factory one day. What? There's not a lot of factories? Oh, okay. Then stop putting your kids in rows. Why aren't your kids allowed to sit near each other? Now, granted, as I'm recording this, social distancing, I get that. Eventually, we'll be able to be in a classroom and kids will be able to sit with each other. Hopefully, you encourage students to do that. We need to provide an opportunity where students can grasp complex content and they can become more energized to use that knowledge constructively. Again, if we go back to communication and creativity, what does all of that or any of that mean if we can't share that with others or be inspired by others because we are better together? Back in 2018, Renee Patton, who was Cisco's U.S. Public Sector Director of Education, said, quote, "Regular and persistent use of collaboration or web conferencing technology in the classroom is the best way to create and grow a digital school culture, and thus a new digital learning environment." Well, that was in 2018, and here we are in 2021, and if you are not using web conferencing technology in your classroom, how the heck are you teaching right now? Whether you're hybrid or virtual, what are we doing? So we're living this. We've got to live it better. We've got to inspire and teach the kids how to collaborate. You can't be on your virtual meeting simply talking at them. You got to let them go a little bit. Whether you're using breakout rooms or Kumo space, or just giving them time away from the meeting to get on FaceTime and figure out how they can collaborate and communicate with another person. Let them figure it out on their own a little bit. Tell them to go out and find a tool that they can collaborate with somebody else or a group for something. Fostering collaboration is not just for students either. Teachers, like you, like me, like your friend over there who's not listening to you or looking at you funny for listening to a podcast, and now I'm talking out loud and they might be thinking, wait, is that person talking to them about me? Wait, it's a podcast. How is that happening? We as teachers, as educators, we must also work together to help each other develop the skills necessary to incorporate collaboration. It's 2021. If you still feel like you're teaching on an island, it might be time for you to actually go to an island and be by yourself, because you are not alone. And if you think you are, reach out to me. feedback@chrisnessy.com. Reach out on Twitter @Mr. Nessy. I will talk to you. You're not alone. We can work on collaboration together. I'm not perfect. I'm always looking to have conversations and figure out new things I can do with my students. So we can do that together. Number 4, we need to inspire critical thinking with education technology, and technology doesn't even have to be a part of this. Your goal when implementing EdTech should be to push students to go beyond fact memorization. You should have students embrace a conceptual understanding of content. You can do better than multiple choice tests. You know there are better ways to assess what your students know and what your students understand. If not, you've got a lot more work to do than just listening to me. I'm not trying to insult you. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. I'm just sharing the truth. I haven't given a traditional assessment in 5 years. I don't give additional or traditional homework. Hell, I don't even use a textbook. I get in the trenches with my students. We work together on the assignments in my class. I'm not trying to make my students fall in love with history or even enjoy history as much as I do. I don't ask them to memorize names, dates, vocabulary. In my class, we are using history to get us to think. It's not about going home and sweeping a history category on Jeopardy. My goal is to teach my students to ask questions and pursue their curiosities. Well, after I rekindle what it means to be curious by asking a lot of questions. In conclusion, the 4 C's are not hard to make a part of your classroom. They should be the focal point. They are for me. They are the verbs of my classroom at any level, whether it's high school, college, or teaching PD, or doing this podcast. The 4 C's, the students don't have to be great at these 4 things when they enter my class. They don't have to be great at them when my class is over. I simply expect them and guide them to be better than when we first met. So let's tie this together. I want you to find a creative way to communicate with me that you listen to this episode and understand what I've shared, so you and I can collaborate and put some critical thought into how we can both get better at this thing we do called teaching. At Mr. Nesi on Twitter, feedback@chrisnesi.com is the email, chrisnesi.com/174. Leave a comment on the show notes. At House of EdTech on Instagram. Reach out. Let's do a little bit more together. Now it's time for this episode's House of EdTech VIP, and I'm really excited about this one. Not that I'm any less excited about the other VIPs, but this is a fun one. I want to give a shout out to Melissa Aveling. Mel A is an Australian secondary math teacher for over a decade. Mel has taught in her home country of Australia. She has taught at IB schools in Taiwan, and she currently teaches in Colombia at an IB school. She loves traveling, if you couldn't tell. She enjoys hiking, photography, waterfalls, and tennis. She's an active member of the global GEG group, and she frequents many of the places that I speak live, whether it's YouTube or now Clubhouse. So I really appreciate having gotten to know and interact with Melissa for the last few months. And she's a valuable part of my PLN. She should be a valuable member of yours as well. She's on Clubhouse, she's on Twitter, and her Twitter handle is Fungooli, Fungooli. She's really cool. Go connect with her, and congratulations to Mel A. You are a House of EdTech VIP. Thanks for checking out episode 174 of the House of EdTech podcast. Let's keep the conversation going. You know you have a little bit of homework to creatively communicate and collaborate and critically think with me based on what I shared in this episode. If you want to check out the show notes, go to chrisnesi.com/174. And if you want to leave feedback and communicate with me, you can go to chrisnesi.com/feedback. Now, if you enjoy the House of EdTech, and clearly you do, this is a wonderful program. I'm very proud to make it for you. Do me 2 things. Number 1, tell somebody else about the podcast. When you share it on social media, tag me at Mr. Nesi, #House of EdTech, at House of EdTech on Instagram. I would love to see you out in the wild. Let's start to have fun on Instagram. Maybe you want to come over to the Discord group. Go to chrisnessy.com/Discord. Join the community. Join the conversation there. Let me know what you think of the show. The other thing you can do, you could consider becoming an awesome supporter of the podcast. The Awesome Supporter Program is powered by Patreon, which lets a consumer of content like you support a creator of content like me. Special thanks to my awesome supporters, who include Anthony Arnaud from the STEM Class Podcast, Dan Gallagher from GallagherTech.edublogs.org, Carlos Garza, Mr. G, from the EST Tech Podcast, Peggy George, @PGeorge on Twitter, Jeff Herb, my original awesome supporter. Connect with him @JeffHerb. Mike Messner, @Messner_Mike. Matt Miller from the DitchThatTextbook.com website. JP Prezavento from the Bits and Bytes of Education podcast at jpprez.com. Lori Simpson, she is @NorthLSimpson on Twitter. And Kyle Wilcox, he is @LevelUpEdTech on Twitter. Thank you to each and every one of you for your support. And if you are interested in becoming an awesome supporter, go to chrisnessy.com/awesome. And obviously, as I mentioned at the top of the episode, we also have the brand new Pod Journal. You could find more about that at thepodjournal.com. The next episode of the House of EdTech will be episode 175, and that's going to come your way on March 14th, 2021. Get ready, because the 2021 House of EdTech Final Four is coming soon. There will be more information on how you can participate in episode 175. Until next time, thank you for learning with me. And remember, using technology isn't difficult. Just give it a try.